Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to Korean Atlanta Mentorship. And in this video, I'm going to talk about how if you're over the age of 16 and you haven't made $1 billion, then your life is over and you should stop trying anything in life. No, I'm just kidding. In fact, I actually want to talk about the opposite. But the funny thing is, if you watch a lot of media, right? And media, the whole goal of media, if you didn't know it, is not to give you the most honest and truthful story, although, it doesn't mean that you can't find honest and truthful news in the media. The main goal is to get clicks, right? More clicks equals more advertisement money for the media organization, meaning that people get paid. That's how the business works, right? And so if you ever watch media sources, one of the things that they always like to emphasize is just, oh, get rich quick, side hustle, bring over $400,000 a year, billion-dollar company, $400 million dating app, on so on and so forth. But that's not the average person, right? But the problem is that our minds are not necessarily rational as to what's normal, because if we constantly see images of people having, let's say, 400 million or $1 billion successes in like 1 year, or in your 20s, or you buy 100 houses in 1 year at the age of 21, what's probably going to happen is probably going to just make you give up in life and think, well, I'm not going to get started because I'm not, I'm already past the age of 16 and I haven't made $1 billion yet. So why even get started? And, our society in general is a very strange one because we always constantly try to pump fear and anxiety, and even at very young ages, right? Like teenagers, about how if you don't do this in life, then your life is over. But when it comes to things that actually matter, like nobody really seems to care. And I'm going to just give you a few examples. So, when I was a teenager, everybody would act like if they did not go to a certain college or they did not go into certain AP classes, then the life, or take certain AP classes, then their life was over. And, people talk to me like that all the time and acted like I was like the weirdest person for not wanting to go to college, right? Now, fast forward many, many years later, there's a ton of people who are unemployed, not making enough money. They live with their parents. They're fully grown, live with their parents. Again, we live in that generation where you're a fully grown adult and it's totally normal to live with your parents, and nobody ever uses that fear-based language with at that point in your life when you really should be making it. But when it comes to things that absolutely do not matter, that's when that fear-based language is really prevalent. And I see it in teens today. I tell them, like, I actually give it to them straight and tell them that college is like not worth it and it's just a waste of time. But again, because they've sucked in the fear-based propaganda, they feel like by the time, if I'm not 17, I haven't have like a bunch of success or doing things that don't matter, then there's something wrong with me. And again, if you consume too much media where it's like you're looking at Olympic level successes and you're just an average Joe, and I always feel like I'm an average Joe, you're going to actually be depressed, right? And so one of the things that you have to do is just gain relative perspective as to what normal is, right? And again, this is kind of something you really have to do if you're doing real estate investing, because if you buy a house, you can't have pie in the sky delusions. You have to actually do something called comps to figure out what the houses are buying and selling for, and you don't have the luxury to be delusional, or else you'll actually go broke. Side tangent there. But back to my point, if you consume too much of this type of media, then you'll actually just give up in life, because you'll be like, well, everyone else is making a $400,000 a year or $1 billion companies, and what am I doing with my life, right? And it's just going to prevent you from actually getting up in life and just living your life. But a lot of people, unfortunately, just consume this hype and think that this is actually what normal is. What normal in reality is actually just failure, right? Most people, in general, are failures, and I don't know if you ever heard the statistic about like at least 50% of people in this country live paycheck to paycheck. But the thing is that the human mind is not really rational, right? So we don't compare ourselves in an absolute scale to how other people are doing. We just compare ourselves to a relative scale. So, for example, even though the average person with the cell phone, with the internet in their hands, is actually far, realistic speaking, like absolutely speaking, far better off than someone 20 years ago. They're getting more and more anxiety just because we're not comparing ourselves in a realistic manner. It's just all relative, right? And I remember a long time ago, I forgot what point it was in my life. I heard about this study where if somebody made $1 million and everybody else they knew made like $2 million, it would make that person depressed. Whereas, let's say everybody else makes less money. So if you make $100,000, but everyone else around you makes $50,000, that would actually like trigger happiness in that person because even though you're not absolutely better off, you're relatively better off than those people. And assuming that the dollar has the same value in both situations, um, most people, if you're not like really actively being conscious of what's going on, are just going to fall into the trap of just comparing yourself to other people. And here's the thing: you don't have to do anything in life, right? We live in a time of relative wealth, but people are always in this super hyper competitive mode where they're always comparing themselves to each other, and you can't do that because guess what? Once you make $1 million, there's people above you at the 10 million and the 100 million level, and once you make $100 million, guess what? There's a billion, people at the $1 billion level that you're going to compare yourself to, right? So, so again, don't compare yourself to what other people are doing and constantly think that people who are doing Olympic level things is at everything in life is something that you should be doing. If you do reach that level, that's incredibly awesome. But don't think like it's like the end of the world if you haven't done, reached those Olympic level goals, right? I'm never going to be Olympic level gymnast or a wrestler or archer, right? I'm just never going to do it. But I'm pretty sure that, if I go into a rabbit hole on the internet, I could find people who are amazing dancers, amazing whatever, and I'll never be able to do it. But if I compare myself to those people, then I'll feel like, well, what's the point? And I'll just like um, not have the energy to ever get up in bed. But that's what happens to so many people is that they just don't take the first steps because if they're at taking the first step, you can't compare yourself to people who've ran marathons, right? There are a ton of people out there who've run marathons and but not as many people. Or let me say this again. There are many people who run marathons, but there are much more people who've never even taken their first step in many things in life, right? And so don't compare yourself to only the successes that the media shows because the media only tends to show extreme cases because that's what brings clicks, right? People don't understand that, like that in order for something to be viewed and bring in money, it has to be almost out of the norm. Yet people get so desensitized, and they just keep clicking and thinking getting desensitized and thinking whatever they see on the TV or on the screen is actually normal when in reality it's not. All right, so this is Korean Atlanta Mentorship. If you're interested in joining our group, go ahead and click the Google form link below. Other than that, I'll just probably crank out a few more videos today. But have a great day, and we will speak next time.